Have you ever looked at a black and white photograph like this and wondered how it feels so real, even without color? Why do some drawings and paintings appear solid and believable, while others look flat? Very often, the answer lies in one of the most powerful tools in art, value. Even a well-drawn subject can lose its sense of form if the value structure is weak. On the other hand, when value is handled well, a flat surface can begin to feel solid, spacious, and alive. In this lesson, we'll explore what value is, why it matters so much, how artists use value scale to study it, and how you can start training your eye to see and apply value in your own work today. In the final section, we'll also look at how master artists handle value across different styles. So, what is value? Simple. Value is the lightness or darkness of color. That's it. But here is the thing. Value is what creates the illusion of three-dimensional form on a flat piece of paper. Think about it this way. In a black and white photo, there is no color to help you. The image relies entirely on light and dark to show you form, texture, depth, and space. There are many aspects of value that could be explored, but in this lesson, we'll focus specifically on how value functions on three-dimensional objects. You may notice that I return to this subject often in other lessons as well. That's because value underpins nearly every visual principle in art. Its definition may sound simple, but mastering it is anything but simple. So, how do we control value? With this, a value scale. A value scale is a tool that organizes a range of values from light to dark, usually from white to black, with several steps of gray in between. Most scales have 6 to 10 steps, but that depends on your style. Simplified work, fewer steps. Super detailed realism, more steps. What matters most is not the exact number, but the ability to understand how those differences can be applied to your work. If you have never created a one before, let's make one together, both a painted version and a drawn version. This is excellent practice because it trains your hand and your eye to see and control gradations. They also become useful reference tools when you work from observation, helping you compare and judge tones more accurately. In this demonstration, the scale is slightly larger than 1 inch. I'm creating 9 values here. Use a flat brush of an appropriate size so that the edges remain clean and controlled. One helpful approach is to establish the lightest value, the middle value, and the darkest value first. Then you can fill in the remaining steps between them. This method often helps prevent uneven spacing between the values. Now fill in the rest, keeping each transition evenly spaced without sudden jumps. For this drawing value scale, I created 8 steps. Keep each one flat and even. If necessary, go back and readjust the tones until the progression feels balanced. This kind of exercise may seem simple at first, but it demands a surprising amount of sensitivity and control. Now you've got 2 reference tools you can use every time you draw or paint. Okay, so you've got your value scale. Let me show you 3 ways to start seeing and using value. First, work from real objects, not photos, at least until you have built confidence. Why? Because photos often flatten everything. They compress value ranges, lose subtlety, and trick your eye. When you work from life, you see the full range of values, the soft transitions, the reflected light, the tiny shifts that make forms feel real. This means you mentally or physically divide your object into zones of light and dark. By doing this, you train your eyes to see values and shapes, not just random shading. You also recognize how the values shift from one zone to another. This leads to more convincing form, clear structure, and a strong sense of three-dimensionality. Without this habit, beginners oversimplify. Everything's the same gray, or they misinterpret values and distort the form completely. As you work, always compare values in context, side by side with neighboring areas, not in isolation. Ask, is this darker or lighter than the area next to it? Also consider how one part of your drawing looks in relation to the whole. Use your value scale as a reference guide to help you judge tones more precisely. Hold it up, squint, and compare. This consistent comparison is one of the most effective ways to train your eyes and strengthen your control over value. Let's look at how master artists use value in completely different ways. First, take this ink landscape. The image is incredibly simplified in shapes and tones, but it still feels powerful and convincing. That's because the big shapes of dark and light are designed so clearly. Even without detail, the value structure alone carries the whole painting and makes it believable. Now look at this expressive portrait by Munch. The colors and brushstrokes are wild and stylized, but the head still feels solid. Why? Because underneath all that color, the light and shadow pattern is obvious. He can push the style as far as he wants, as long as the values still describe the form. In Van Gogh's early work, value can be used to create mood, atmosphere, and emotional gravity. The contrast between light and dark creates tension, rhythm, and movement. It pulls your eye through the drawing and gives the scene its emotional punch. And then there's Andrew Wyeth. Much of the power of the image lies in the sensitive handling of middle-range values. These passages could easily become dull or flat in less experienced hands, but instead, they are carefully controlled so that the forms remain alive, nuanced, and spatially convincing. This is one of the clearest signs of mastery, the ability to make a quiet value relationships feel rich, active, and full of presence. Across all these examples, simplified ink, bold stylization, emotional color, and quiet realism, the same thing shows up again and again, a strong, deliberate use of value. When you start looking at art this way, you will see value everywhere. It's underneath every style, every technique, every medium. Mastering it takes time, but it's one of the few skills that quietly makes everything you create stronger. The good news is that it can be trained. Let value do the heavy lifting in your work, and everything else becomes easier.